Hey guys, I'm Bill Kirby. Today I'm going to talk about a exercise that I hand out in class fairly often. It's the exercise outlining triads and open chords. So the idea with this exercise is I'm showing you how to outline a triad in open position and then play a chord that corresponds to that triad. Within some of these parts, the triad exists within the chord, but there are also other chords that the triad becomes like a pivot into playing that chord. So I'm going to play through the exercise, then we're going to go through each chord individually, and then I'm going to talk about applying strumming patterns to the exercise to make it a little bit more interesting and fun. So thanks for watching. Here we go. This is in 3/4 time. Great. So that was the exercise in full. Now I'm going to move a little bit closer so you can have a better look at this hand, my left hand, and I'll go through some of the little tricks for each chord. So let's see if I can line this up here. That worked out okay. Great, so the first chord that we're going to talk about is C major. So this is our C major shape, and this is one of the shapes that the triad is within the chord shape, so it's a nice place to start. So you're just going to go ahead and finger the entire shape. But there are kind of two concepts here. We can also use this, to build the chord before we play the chord if we're still getting our hands used to making chord changes, right? Let's set it up. And now that we have this chord shape down, all I have to do is play the lower 3 notes, the 3rd fret, 2nd fret, and then the open G. So we have C, E, G, and then our chord. Again. If we're learning how to set this chord up for the first time, it is kind of nice to be able to utilize the triad to get yourself into that chord, right? And then I had the whole chord down for when I actually had to strum it. So the trick there is to not play them with that that space in between them. Hold the fingers down as we play it. The next chord that we're going to do is G major. G major is also a shape that the triad is within the chord shape. We're going to do G major. This is how I finger it, and we'll talk about different fingerings for G major in a separate lesson. But this is how I'm fingering it, mostly because I'm coming from C, right? So instead of making that, all my fingers have to change. Or even But we'll talk about that in depth in a different lesson. So here's G major. Again, I'm going to do the entire chord. It's already down. And then I'm just going to play the bottom 3 notes. 1, 2, 3, 1. Cool. The next chord is D major. This is the chord shape. Let's see if I can, hopefully I don't mess this up. Here we go. See if that's a little bit more. Yeah, that's right on the money. Cool. So this is our chord shape, and what's going to happen is your index finger is going to pivot into the chord. So here's your triad. You have open D, you have F sharp on the 4th fret, then you're going to play the 2nd fret on the G string, that's an A. That finger pivots into this chord shape. The next one that we're going to talk about is A major. Here's our chord shape, and the thing that we can note about each triad for D major, A major, and E major are that the triad pattern is the same on the guitar. It's just 1 string down. So starting on D, we have, then we go a string down, open 4 2, open 4 2, open 4 2, open 4 2. So that's actually all the same. So that's an interesting thing to note. So now we're going to do A major. A major is another chord that we could spend a different lesson talking about different fingerings for. For the context of this exercise, I'm doing the 1 finger bar. People, of course, finger A like this, or even like this, with the E and the A barred with this finger, and that's C sharp played with the middle finger. We can talk about that in a different lesson too. So we did A major. Now we're going to do E major. And again, here's your E major shape, and then it's that same triad pattern. Open 4 2. Cool. That same concept is the same for D minor, for A minor, and for E minor. All we're doing is instead of open 4 2, now it's going to be open 3 2. So only that one note is the only one that changes. Check out E major. Open 4 2, right? Here's minor. Open 3 2. So all 3 of those have the same pattern. Of course, they're different notes. And we want to be thinking about the different notes, but also for convenience sake, we do have that convenience on the guitar. Here's E minor. Here's our E minor shape. Here we go. Here's E minor. Very much like when I was playing, and actually this is the same for E major and E minor, that when we were playing D, the pivot finger was the index finger. For E major and E minor, the pivot finger is going to be your middle finger. So check it out again. E major. Then E minor. So this finger becomes that guide. Here's A minor. Here's our A minor shape. And here's our triad. It's that same pattern. Right? So there's A minor. I do have, the next chord that we're going to do is D minor. I do have one little trick for fingering a D minor chord. I've seen a lot of people that finger D minor like this with these 3 fingers, right? I actually finger D minor with this finger, and my pinky finger, right? Check it out. So you can see that my ring finger is still up, right? The reason that I do this is because now what I can do is, again, it's very similar to C major, actually, C major and G major, D minor, where the chord shape is kind of within the triad, pardon me, the triad is within the chord shape. So check it out. Watch what I can do here. Right, so instead of having to like toggle that finger, you know, the ring finger down 2 strings, right? Now I'm already utilizing a different finger. And of course, like, you know, movement, especially when everybody else is held down, a lot of movement on your ring finger is probably going to be one of the more tough positions to be able to move that finger. And we've talked about the mobility of the fingers, so just kind of keep that in mind. So here's D minor one more time. There's my chord shape. Beautiful. And then of course, you gotta give it the G7 back to the C just to turn it back around, because that's what you gotta do. Cool. So the next little thing that I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to wrap this up, is the next little thing is there's playing the exercise. It's a thing that I talk about in class a lot. There's playing the exercise, and you should be able to kind of do each little thing with like a flow and be able to not stop in between, just 1, 2, 3 dotted half note and continue and continue. But of course, like, you know, I mean, the music isn't coming out of the exercise, you know, it's our job as the musicians to make music with this stuff. So how can I, you know, just make this a little bit more interesting for my ear, and how can I get a little extra practice within this practice exercise? So the thing that I think of is let's play around with outlining the triad, and then instead of just strumming the chord and letting it ring for the dotted half note, right? 1, 2, 3, right? The dotted half note. Now, instead of the dotted half note, now we'll give it like the accompaniment style patterns, the 1, 2. So we'll add the bass, strum in there. Let's try it out, and we'll see how it works. Okay, so that's kind of that was an interesting thing. I kind of like it the other way, actually. So as I'm going through this, I have to kind of I have to change the exercise just a little bit to make it work within the strumming pattern, right? So the first thing that I did is I went 1. I'm on C major. 1, 2, 3, octave. second time, I hit the bass note again. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. Cool. So let's see if I can get that entire thing to work within the context of a few of these chords. So why don't we pick G major, C major, and D major. And of course you can play around with a bunch of different combinations of these, but right now, you know, we'll just go for, you know, 1, 4, and 5, right? So here's G major again. So I apparently need to work on the D major a little bit. So, you know, and that's the good part about going through these exercises this way, is you continue to learn stuff, you know. I wrote this little exercise, right? Quote unquote, I wrote it, but like, but I still, you know, within the context of getting creative with this stuff, I'm still learning from stuff that, you know, that I, you know, started doing a long time ago, and stuff that, you know, just because I, quote unquote, wrote the exercise doesn't mean that I can't continue to learn from this stuff. Because again, this is the, you know, the number one concept for, like, you know, all of eternity with musicians is we're the musicians, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, that's, you know, and that's almost like an in closing thing. Like, you know, I mean, we're the musicians. It's up to us to, you know, yeah, I hand out the exercise, but like I said, just because I wrote the exercise doesn't mean that I can't continue to learn from this stuff. It's all about getting creative with this stuff. So I'm gonna try out D major a couple more times, and then we're gonna wrap it up for today. So. Speed it up a little bit and see if that's not a train wreck. Hopefully it's not. I'm an optimist here. Alright, good. So I think that's going to wrap it up for right now. But like I said, continue to get creative with this stuff. You know, I mean, the sky's the limit with this stuff. Be as melodic as possible, and really use your ears. Trust your ears, and see where your ears take you. Because, you know, obviously they can take you to some pretty amazing places. Thanks for watching. If you got a little bit out of this lesson, if you learned something, or just want to see what I'm up to, feel free to subscribe, and give me the old thumbs up, the old like-a-roo here. So that's going to wrap it up for right now. Thanks.